ladies and gentlemen. Everybody should have got a white folder on the way in. So we're going to go over that first to make sure you're not missing anything. So if you look on the right side of the folder, the first handout you'll see is for a program called Get Mortgage Ready program. And what that is, if for any reason you can't qualify to buy a home right now because of credit or income or whatever, we give you a step-by-step action plan which tells you what you need and how long it will take. So that's the highlight for that. Behind that is the Home Buying Handbook, which is a good reference for some of the stuff we're going to cover today. And then behind that is the Credit Score Handbook. Definitely encourage you to read that. We don't have enough time today to cover the credit scoring model, but credit is one piece of buying a home. So I want you to understand what credit is. So it talks about there's 5 things that make up your credit. They're not all equal. It talks about how we look at credit for a mortgage and that kind of stuff. So make sure you just set some time, 5-minute easy read. And then the last paper on the right is your homework. You guys didn't know you're getting homework, did you? It's your budget worksheet. You have to do a budget because one of the questions I'm going to ask you over and over is how much can you afford to pay every month for your mortgage payment? Which you can't answer that question unless you know what money's coming in and what money's going out. Alright, so the budget tells you and me what you really can afford. For example, if you're paying $900 a month right now in rent and you're saving $50 a month and you tell me you can afford $1,200, I go, well, the math don't work. You're paying $900, you're saving $50, that's $950. So how can you afford $1,200? So that's why the budget's important, because it tells both of us what you're saving for. Alright, we go to the left side is the company overview, primary residential mortgage, bless you. And there's some information on some different loan products. And then behind that are 2 forms that are real important that I'm going to go over at the end. So the first one is, if you'd like to get a copy of your credit report with your score, you want to fill that out. Alright? And we'll get you a copy of that and your score. And then the second one is if you want to get either an in-office or a phone consultation to go over your Get Mortgage Ready plan, or go over the pre-approval process, whichever one would make sense for you. You fill out that form and we'll get you set up with that. And then the last thing on the left is more homework. You guys have a lot of homework. All that is a list of stuff that you need to gather together so that we can intelligently speak to you about your Get Mortgage Ready plan or your pre-approval. And that's stuff like your pay stubs, your tax returns, your bank statements, your ID, your Social Security awards letter, your child support, divorce stuff. Anything that possibly pertains to you getting a home. Now, any of those items that apply to you that you don't give to us means the information we give back to you is not accurate. Okay? So the more information you give to us, the more accurate your plan will be for your Get Mortgage Ready or your pre-approval. Because all of that stuff on that list affects your ability to buy a home and how much you qualify for. So if you don't give it all to us, then we're giving you back a guess. Yeah, you might qualify for this. I can't tell for sure unless you give me these other items. So it's in your best interest to get all the items as best as possible. Does that make sense? Okay? Because all those items affect how much you qualify for and even if you qualify. Alright, so everything we're going to cover today, this whole presentation is based on this book, Your Guide to Buying Your First Home in Delaware. It's on Amazon. You can get it for $14.95. Okay, so everything we cover and more is in this book. Now, since you guys come today, I get them from my publisher for $5 a book, so I'm going to sell them to you for $20. It's a joke. $14.95. Now, you guys, if you buy it from Amazon, I make like $1.29. Alright? So I'm not making money on the book. I wrote the book for you guys, so if you want to get it today, it's $5 a book. It's what it cost me to get it, okay? So I'll have those at the end if you're interested. So everything we cover today is in the book, and stuff I don't have time to color because it's only 2 hours. Alright, so here's the agenda for today. And I'm going to run through stuff, okay, because we have a lot to cover because I got to get you guys a lot of information. The first thing we're going to do is talk about the benefits of home ownership, because you've got to decide, does it make sense for you to buy a home right now? And if it doesn't now, when? Alright, that's the first question we have to answer. Then we're going to talk about the current housing market, because you're buying this house hopefully as an investment, that when you go to sell it, you will make what? Money, okay? Because you can make money or lose money. We don't want to lose money. And you can find out which one's going to happen if you do the research up front. Now the good news is you guys are kind of in a position where unless you really do something wrong, you should make money when you sell. Because we hit the bottom of the market. What's the market doing now? It's going back up. If the market's going down and you buy and you have to sell too soon, you lose money. And that's what happened to some people. Luckily, you guys don't own, and the market's going up, so you should make money. But we still have to look at the market. After we do that, if you guys think it makes sense for you to buy now, well, what's your steps? So I'm going to cover step by step what you need to do. It won't be a mystery. Then we're going to talk about the credit and how it affects the home buying process, the part you need to know. Then we're going to talk about what a pre-approval process is. Is there any all-cash buyers in here today? Anybody buying all cash? Okay, then everyone in here needs to get what's called a mortgage, which is basically a loan to buy a home. Before you go shopping for a home, you need to make sure you can get that loan and for how much and what type of loan. That's what the pre-approval process is. If you skip this process, that's when you hear all the horror stories about people trying to get under contract to buy a home, and then they get denied for the loan while they're in the middle of buying the house. It's because they went looking for a house, got under contract, and didn't complete a pre-approval. All right, so we're going to talk about how important that is. Then we're going to talk about what mortgage programs are available to you guys today as first-time homebuyers. And then the last part's the fun part. Once you get through all that and you're pre-approved, how do you actually go shopping for a home? And when you find it, how do you negotiate? How do you buy it? Okay? So let's jump right into this. There's 5 big benefits to owning a home. Okay? The first one is, if you're a first-time homebuyer, outside of probably a 401k retirement account, this is your first big investment that could make you a lot of money. So if you know anybody that bought a house in the 80s, that house, they probably paid between $30,000 and $80,000. Today, it's worth between $100,000 and $500,000. Okay? That's called appreciation. Real estate goes up in value as long as you have enough of one thing. That one thing is time. Okay? There's cycles in the market where it does go down, but if you look at real estate over the last 30 years, with the ups and the downs, the average is year over year, real estate went up about 5 to 6%. So in real estate, you will make money as long as you have enough time to hold it. You guys are in a good spot because you don't need much time because you're buying it at the bottom of the market and it's coming back up. We're still 17% below the peak of the market in 06, so you still got a lot of upside. Okay? The second thing is, if you're renting right now and your lease comes up for renewal, what are they doing to your rent? It's going up, right? Everyone's rent's going up. The rental market is great right now for the landlords, not for the tenants. But if you buy a house instead, you can choose to fix your housing payment pretty much for the next 30 years. Wouldn't that be nice? 15 years from now, you're still paying about the same payment that you were 15 years ago if you got a mortgage. But if you're renting 15 years from now, it's not even going to be close, right? So you have the ability to fix your payments. Appreciation on your investment. This is how you make money over time in real estate. I'm going to show you an example of that. You control the property, which is great. Right now, if you're renting an apartment, can you paint it pink? Probably not. You would not get your security deposit back, right? But if you own the house, you want to paint it pink, go for it. So for the most part, when you get control of the property, you can do what you want as long as you don't violate any deed restrictions of the community or of the county. All right? And what a deed restriction is, if you look at some of these new developments that are going up, the new constructions, you got to be careful because they have what are called deed restrictions, which say what you can and can't do. For example, when I'm buying the house I live in now, I was looking at new construction, what we call resale, homes that were already built. Well, one of the things I wanted was a 6-foot privacy fence around the backyard. Had a dog, was thinking about maybe a pool, wouldn't be able to swim naked, you know. Just kidding. So, but when I looked at all the new construction, guess what they said I couldn't put around my backyard? 6-foot privacy fence. Now I could have a fence, but there's only one type of fence you can have. Split rail fence. Had to be uniform throughout the neighborhood. Now what's the idea behind that? They're trying to keep the value of the neighborhood because they don't want all these different kind of fences. So I had to make a decision. If I wanted to buy new construction, what did I have to give up? Privacy fence. I didn't want to, so I found a resale that already had the 6-foot privacy fence around the backyard, so guess how much extra I paid for that? None. Fences don't add that much value, but they're probably $6,000, $7,000. So I already had the fence in the resale house. So for me, I ended up buying a resale. Already had the fence because I didn't want to give that up. Now one of the other things in these new construction neighborhoods is if you drive a plumber's van because you're a self-employed plumber, guess what you can't park in front of your house? Your ugly plumber's van, okay? They have deed restrictions about parking commercial vehicles in front of your home or parking a boat in your driveway. You can't do that either. So if that doesn't apply to you, not a problem. But if it does, that's stuff you need to think about in terms of controlling the property. So some of the newer developments and new constructions, they have deed restrictions. So you just want to make sure you review those deed restrictions before you buy. Because if you violate the deed restriction, they can fine you per day until you fix it. Now the tax benefits, this is huge. Tax time's coming up April 15th next week. Some of you may have already done your taxes. Does anybody know what line number when you're doing your taxes you get to add up all the rent you paid and put it on there? You guys remember where that is? You guys, nobody knows? You know why? Because you can't. You can't add up all your rent and deduct it on your taxes. But guess what? If you owned a home last year instead, you get to add up all the interest and all the property taxes you paid and deduct that off your taxable income. All right? That's huge tax benefits. So let me show you a quick example. Let's say you made $50,000 last year, and between the interest and the property taxes, your deductions add up to $15,000. Okay? So instead of paying tax on the $50,000 you made, you get to deduct the $15,000 off. You only pay tax on $35,000. That's huge. Okay? Whereas if you were renting, you got to pay tax on the $50,000. Does that make sense? So that's the tax benefits. Now, Delaware has another tax benefit unique to Delaware. It's called a mortgage credit certificate. That's the real name, but we call it the Delaware First-Time Homebuyer Tax Credit. What it is it's different than a deduction. A deduction lowers your taxable income. A tax credit is a dollar for dollar credit to you. And you can get up to $2,000 tax credit. Now, there's a fee to enroll in the program, but you can get up to $2,000 a year for the whole time you have the mortgage. Okay? So that's a lot of money. There's income restrictions. There's a fee to enroll in it, but it's a great program. All right. So let's talk about why buy a home. First of all, equity. Equity is money that is trapped in your home. All right? That's the definition. It's money that's trapped in your home. It's the difference between what you could sell your home for and what you owe the bank. So let's say you have a home that's worth $200,000 and you owe the bank $150,000. The difference is $50,000 of equity. Now, it's not real money because that's trapped in the home. There's only two ways to get equity out of the home. First one is sell it. Problem with selling it is now you still need a place to live, right? So you got to sell it, and guess what? It costs money to sell your home, so you're going to get the whole $50,000. No, you got to pay a realtor to sell it for you. You got to pay transfer tax. You might have to pay the recording fee and satisfaction. So you're not going to get the full $50,000 out when you sell your home. The only other way to get the equity out is you got to go to the bank and get a loan. But if you get a loan, what are you going to have? A payment. All right? So you got to be careful about equity. That is money that you trap in your home. There's only two ways to get it back. All right? And we talked about appreciation. That's how much properties go up in value year over year. Now, the average is 5 to 6% over the last 30 years. Well, February of 2013 and February 2014, the national average last year was 12.2% appreciation. Okay? So that's more than the average. But in 08, 09, 10, 11, home values were actually negative appreciation. We're going down. So now they're coming back up. We talked about stable housing costs, no landlord to raise your rent. You control the property, you see rights of ownership. You can deduct the interest in the property taxes. And future equity buildup, you can use that to help you set up some different retirement options if you manage that equity properly. So let me talk about appreciation. This is how you make money long-term in real estate. Let's say you bought a house today for $100,000. I'm going to use a low appreciation rate of 5%. That means each year the house is worth 5% more. Doesn't seem like a big number, but the more time you have, the bigger it gets. So after 1 year, it's worth $105. Not a big deal. You wouldn't really make any money because it would probably cost you the $5,000 to sell it, right? So you break even. But look where you're at in 5 years. $27,000 of equity appreciation. All right? Now, let's say you borrowed the whole 100% when you bought the house. In 5 years, do you still owe $100,000? No, because you're doing what every month? Making payments, and that goes towards the principal. So what happens is your equity is going to build up two ways. You're going to have the appreciation, and then what's going to happen to your loan? It's going to go down. So that's how equity builds up, all right, over time. All right. One of the questions people ask me all the time is, should I make extra payments to my mortgage? What do you guys think? Good idea? They say set up bi-weekly payments, make extra payments. How many people heard of that and think that's a good idea? How many people are afraid to raise their hand and it's a trick question? Okay. I'm not going to tell you yes or no. I want to educate you on what you're doing. When you make an extra payment to your mortgage, where is that money going? Into your home as what? Equity. That's what you're doing. You're making an extra payment towards the money you borrowed. That money goes in your home. So when you make extra payments, you're putting extra money into your home as equity. Now, if you need that money, how many ways are there to get it back out? 2, which are what? Sell it or get a loan. So let's say you need to sell your house quick because you need the money that you put in there. Are you going to get top dollar for your house? If you want to sell it quick, what are you going to have to do to the price? Discount it, right? Everyone said you got to discount it so it'll sell quick. So you're going to lose some equity. Now, let's say you lost your job, that's why you need the money. Can you get a loan to pull the equity out? Because guess what the first question is when you apply for a loan? So, where do you work, sir? Oh, I just got fired. Okay, we're done here. Have a nice day. You're not getting a loan, right? So, if you need the money, your equity, you're not going to get it quick. So, you got to be careful. So, that's all you're doing when you make extra payments is you're trapping that money quicker in your home. Now, the reason why people tell you to make extra payments and biweekly payments is because you save on the interest. All right? That's all you're doing. They're saying, well, you're going to pay the house off quicker, so you'll pay less interest, which is true, but that should not be your biggest concern right now unless you have this other stuff. You should have this done first before you ever send one extra dime into the mortgage because this is way more important. The first thing you should be doing is you should fund an emergency account. We call that an emergency fund. That's a bank account set aside just for emergencies. How do you know what 6-month emergency fund is? Well, when you guys do your budget, you add up all your minimum payments just to live. That's called your survival number. Times that by 6. So let's say you got to spend $3 grand every month just to live. That's your minimum credit card payments, car payment, house payment. Let's say the minimum's $3,000. That's your survival number. Times that by 6, then you should have $18,000 in a savings account. That's what a financial planner will tell you. You should have that before you ever send one extra dime into the bank. And let me tell you why. People used to give advice a couple years ago and said, set up bi-weekly payments, the best thing to do. So let's say you owned a home, you bought it for the last 5 years, you sent an extra $15,000 in bi-weekly payments that you didn't have to. So where is that money now? It's in your equity, but it's not even really there. Because what happened to home values over the last 5 years? They dropped. So your 15 grand's gone. So if you sold the home right now, would you get your 15 grand? No, you got to wait for it to do what? Come back up. So you really didn't, your money's gone right now if you were to sell your house. Now, if instead of putting that money in your equity, you would have put it in a savings account. You have 15 grand in your savings account. Let's say you lost your job right now because of the recession and your mortgage payment's $1,000 a month. Do you really care that you're going to pay your mortgage off 5 years sooner if you just lost your job now? Does that really matter? Because that's 25 years from now, right? We don't really care about that. Because we don't have a job right now to pay the mortgage, so are we ever going to pay the mortgage off? No, because what's the bank going to do? We're going to take the house. So it's dumb. But if instead of doing that bi-weekly payment, you put that 15 grand in a savings account, and now you lost your job and your payment's $1,000 a month, how many months do you have to find a job? 15, right? You see the difference? So that's why you need to have your emergency fund funded before you ever pay one extra dime to your mortgage. That's financial sense. I see people doing bi-weekly payments, living paycheck to paycheck with nothing in the bank. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard of in my life. I don't know who gave them that advice, but that's the dumbest thing I ever heard, right? Now, the second thing you should be doing is contributing the maximum to your 401k. And here's why this is so important. When you retire, which I hope, if you want to retire, can you live off your house? Does your house write you a check? No. So when you retire, what are you living off of? Your 401k. It is way more important to put as much money as possible in your 401k before you ever send one extra dime to that mortgage. Does that make sense? Now, do you know what the maximum was you could have put in your 401k last year? $17,500. So if you didn't put $17,500 in your 401k, do you have any business paying one extra dime to the bank? No. Now, the bank, as the bank, I'm supposed to tell you, yeah, it's great, shut it up, because we want our money back quicker, right? But for you, no, it's not the smartest thing to do. Then you should have, if you make less than $110,000 a year, you should have a Roth IRA set up. Okay, that's a great retirement account, because the money, when you take it out, is tax-free. So let's say over the next 30 years, you put $100,000 into your Roth IRA, and it's now worth $1 million because the market's going up over the last 30 years. If you guess how much you can pull out, as long as you're 59 and a half, you can pull the whole $1 million out, and guess how much you pay in taxes? You get $1 million. Now, your 401k is great because you put the money in pre-tax, but guess what happens when you take it out? You got to pay tax. So if you got $1 million in your 401k, newsflash, you ain't getting $1 million. Right? Because when you got to pay your income tax and pull it out. So both of them are useful, but they're different advantages. Now you should have the proper life insurance. Combination of you're going to either have term or permanent, depending on your financial picture and how old you are. The older you get, the less it makes sense to get permanent. It should be term. If you're young, permanent may make sense. Again, that's something you should discuss with a financial planner. And then you should be saving 20% of your paycheck. If you're not saving 20% of your paycheck, you got no business doing an extra payment to your mortgage. Now, if you're doing all that, sure, go ahead and set up a biweekly payment. So I didn't tell you what to do, I educated you, right? So it's your decision, because you can ignore all this and do biweekly payments, and then your house is paid off free and clear when you retire, and you got 10 grand in your 401k. Guess what? You ain't retiring, not with 10 grand in your 401k, right? So, hopefully that answers the question, should you make extra payments? Now this next section, I want to warn you guys, you're going to want to stay seated because you're probably going to get a little sick to your stomach. Right? Just want to warn you. We're going to show you how much renting costs you. Let's say you're paying $1,500 a month in rent. Alright? You might be paying less than that, you might be paying more, but just for this example, $1,500 a month. I'm going to use a 5% annual rent increase. Right now it's actually closer to 10 because the rental market's really exploding, but let's just use 5. 5 years later, you would have spent nearly $100,000 on rent. Let me say that again in case you weren't paying attention. 5 years from now, you would have spent nearly $100,000 on rent. Now let's see what you get for your 100 grand. Let's say it's 5 years later, your lease is up and you're moving out. So it's you and all your stuff on the street. Do you have a place to live after spending 100 grand? Now you got to go find another rental, right? Now if you live somewhere for 5 years, you might paint, put in a ceiling fan, fix it up a little bit. How much does your landlord write you a check for that, for doing all that? Nothing. You're lucky to get your security deposit back, right? You're fighting for that. And then, if 5 years, in this case, you saw there was $27,000 of equity appreciation. How much of that does he write you a check for? None. Because it's not your house. You're paying his mortgage for him. He thanks you very much. Alright? So pretty much, 5 years later, $100,000 later, what do you have to show for it? Absolutely nothing. Who wants to keep renting? Alright, so if you want to stop renting, the only other option is move back in with your parents or buy a home, right? Well, that might even be not an option because, like, my dad would charge me rent. So that's not an option either. So, I don't make up numbers. So let me show you how I got the 100 grand. $1,500 a month times 12 months, that's $18,000 in rent for the first year. 5% increase each year, add it all up, you're at $99,480. So pretty much $100,000. Now, one of the problems people can encounter or challenges when they go from renting to owning is sometimes the mortgage payment can be higher than the rent. Okay? They say, I can't afford it. Now, I need 2 volunteers. Oh, thanks, guys. Now, I knew they wanted to volunteer. You know how I knew they wanted to volunteer? Because I'm psychic. You guys don't believe that? All right, I'll prove it one more time. I'm going to read both their minds again. All right, let me read. Both of these two want to buy a home, right? See, I'm good, right? I'm psychic. Okay, so 2 volunteers, they both want to buy a home. If you want to buy a home, the mortgage payment is going to be $1,654 a month for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. If you want to rent a similar home instead, it's only $1,500. Okay, so she does her budget, she crunches it, and she says, you know what? $1,654 is a little bit out of my budget, but if I stop shopping for shoes every week and only get my hair done once a month, I'm going to make it work. Okay, I'm going to make it work. Now he goes, you know what? I did my budget. I can't afford that extra $154 a month because my hair's got to be right every week. I got to have a new pair of shoes. I got to be in style. I'm just going to rent for $1,500. I'm going to buy later, okay? Because I can't afford the $154 more. So for her, $1,654 is her 30-year fixed rate payment. So what's she paying in 5 years? $1,654, right? Good. Play along at home. What's she paying in 10 years? $1,654. What's she paying in 30 years? I tricked you. 30 years, what's she paying? It's gone, right? She paid it off. As long as she didn't refinance, she paid it off. The only thing she's going to pay after that is once a year she's going to pay her homeowners, once she's going to pay her property tax. Pretty much the mortgage payment's gone. Now let's go back to lovely contestant number 2 who's renting. $1,500 a month. Can't afford the $1,654. What's he paying for that same place in 3 years? He's paying the $1,654. So eventually you're going to pay it. But look what he's paying in 5 years. Who knows what he's paying in 30 years? Now the argument is I can't afford it is ridiculous because in reality, she's paying about the same as him, maybe even a less. You know why? Because what does she get that he doesn't because she owns a home? She gets help from the IRS. They let her deduct all the interest and all the property taxes she paid, and that'll be about, on this mortgage, about at least $154 a month. Now, there's two ways to get that money. You can wait till the end of the next year and get it as a what? Tax refund. Or you can change your W-4 form and get it every month in your paycheck to help with the mortgage. It's up to you how you get that money. Okay? Most people don't really understand what a refund is. How many people got a refund this year or plan on getting one? Anybody? Okay, save that for your down payment. But the reason why you got the refund is you didn't get anything. They just gave you your own money back. Right? Because you realize that, right? All you did was, this is what you guys did. You said, you know what, I feel really bad. The government can't pay the bills. We got $18 trillion in debt. I make just way too much money. So just go ahead and take extra out of my paycheck in taxes every month. So take a whole bunch of extra, keep it all year long, and don't give it back to me until I fill out your stupid paperwork, and then send it back when you feel like it. Oh no, don't pay me any interest. I don't want any interest. I know you guys can't afford it. So keep it all year, pay me no interest, and give it back to me when you feel like it. That's what you said, right? But that's not what you meant to say. That's what's really happening when you get a refund. You're saying take extra out, but you don't have to. Keep it all year, pay me no interest, and then give it back to me when you feel like it. Right? Because that's pretty much what happens. So, how did you tell them to take too much out? When you filled out that W-4 form, you did the ones and zeros. You didn't claim enough ones, so they're taking too much out. So if you want them to take less out, what do you have to do? Claim more ones. Okay, simple as that. But the government's smarter than you. If you don't let them take out enough, what do they charge you? Interest and penalties. Alright? So, here's one way you can afford that higher mortgage payment if you have to take that when you go from renting. You get to deduct the interest and the property taxes, so you can change your withholding as to W-4 and get the other extra money you would get at the end of the year back in your paycheck every month. Now, if you're just going to blow the money on shopping, don't do it. But if you're going to be disciplined and use it to the payment or save it in your own bank account, which you can do, right? Don't they automatically take it out of your check and put it in their account? Can't you automatically take it out and put it into a savings account instead of your checking account? Because it goes in your checking account, what are you going to do? You're going to spend it. So you don't want it going in your checking account. You'll go in your savings account. Now, if you go to the IRS website, which is irs.gov, if you type this in, withholding calculator, you can calculate what your withholding should be. It'll tell you what you should be claiming. And if you want to see how it will change with owning a home, pretend you owned a home last year. Put in the interest and the property taxes, see how it will change. Okay? The more accurate information you put in here, the more accurate information it gives you back. So put in what you make, how many dependents you have, that kind of stuff. Pretend like you own the home, put in the interest and the property taxes. And then you can use that extra money to help with the mortgage payment. Or don't change anything and wait to the end of the year, you'll get it as a refund. Let me show you an example of how this works. Let's say you get a 6% 30-year fixed rate mortgage for $200,000. Your payment's $11.99. Your first year's interest will be $11,933. Okay? And let's just say your property tax is $3,600. That's high for around here, but we'll just use this for an example. So if we add these two together, that's your deduction. That's $15,533. So if you're making $50,000 a year, you're not going to pay tax on the $50,000. You get to lower your taxable income by the $15,533, so you're going to pay tax on about $34,500. Okay? So how much do you save? It depends on you, because not everyone's in the same tax bracket. So how much you save depends on your tax bracket. So for this example, let's just say this person's in the 25% tax bracket. That's what they pay in federal income tax. So if they were renting, they would have to pay that tax on this money. But since they bought this home, if I take 25% of this $15,000, divided by 12 months in the year, that's $324 a month this person's saving on their taxes because they own the home versus renting. Now don't walk out of here saying, John said if I buy a home, I'll save $324 on my taxes. That's not what I said. That's only if this is your loan and you're this person in this tax bracket. Now, if there's any accountant geeks out there, yes, I simplified this. I didn't take care of the standard deduction, which would add on to that, so it wouldn't be the same savings. There you go. There's my disclaimer for you accountant geeks, okay? But just for you guys, I just want you to understand that you will save. Now, I didn't even take account of your net extra savings you're going to get. If you sign up for the mortgage credit certificate, which is the Delaware first-time homebuyer tax credit, and you have to pay a fee, but in my opinion it's worth the fee because you can get up to $2 grand for the whole time you have the mortgage, which do that, $2 grand a year. Just do it times 20 years. That's a lot of money, right? $40,000. Okay? So, $20,000, so that's a lot of money. So what you want to do is if you sign up for that, in addition to the deduction, you get $2,000, just straight $2,000 to you, which is like $167. That's just $167 right there. Right? So, huge tax benefit to owning a home. Now let's look at the current housing market. First of all, the current housing is not tied to rates. Rates were real low and home prices were going down. Rates were real low and home prices were going up. Rates have moved up, but they're still ridiculously low. Okay? In 2008, when this whole financial crisis started, does anyone know where mortgage rates were? They're about 7.5%. That was low. They were 7.5% in 2008, and that was still low. Right now, the rates are in the mid-4s. That's ridiculously low compared to 7. Now, by the end of the year, they're talking the rates will probably be in the low 5s. Is that high? No, that's still ridiculously low. But the longer you wait, rates are going to do what? Increase. And guess what's happening also? What's going to increase? The price of the home. So the longer you wait, the more you will pay. Okay? So if you can do it now is going to probably be your best time versus waiting till the end of the year. Alright, so housing is tied more to jobs than anything. If you're in an area that's creating jobs, home prices will go up because people move there for the job, put a demand on housing. If you're in an area that's losing jobs, people can't afford their homes, people move away to go find a job, so the real estate prices go down. Well, that's what happened in Delaware after the financial crisis, right? We lost a lot of jobs in Delaware. We lost 2 car plants that went out of business. They shut down the oil refinery. All the credit card banking companies, were laying people off. Bank of America bought NBA, laid off a whole bunch of people. Okay? So what we need to do is create jobs, which they're trying to do. They got the refinery back online. They got the Amazon in Middletown. So they're trying to do stuff to create jobs, which will put a demand on housing. All right? So you can see home prices were 12.2% for 2012. They were about 12.2% again for 2013. Now, 2014 home prices are going to go up, but they're not going to be 12%. They'll probably be more between 8 and 9%. Okay? But they still will go up. So if you buy a house this year, it should be worth more next year. So it's still a great time to buy. Historically low interest rates. Homes are still on clearance. Now, what do I mean by that? Homes are still about 17% below their peak in 2006. But it's a different market right now. It's no longer a buyer's market. Even though home prices are still cheap, it's not a buyer's market because we have something called low inventory. There's not a lot of homes for sale right now compared to the number of buyers. So what that means is don't get your advice from your dad or your uncle. If you want to go lowball homes, you are not going to buy a home this year. Does everybody understand me? What I just said, if you're going to go lowball homes, you are not going to buy a home this year. Did you get me? So if the house is priced at $150 and you offer $140, are you going to get the home? No, not going to happen. Why? Home prices are going where? Up or down? Up. So why would the seller discount their price for you? And is there a lot of homes for sale or is it low? Right. So are they going to discount the home or are they going to tell you to pack saying, I got 2 other offers coming in? Does that make the market has shifted? It is no longer a buyer's market. It is a seller's market because we have low inventory. There's not a lot of homes for sale. So if you're going in because your uncle or you watch too much TV, so you got to offer $10,000 less. Yes, in 2011 you could. But now it's what? 20 what? 14. You missed the boat. 3 years ago you could have lowballed. That time's over. I'm telling you this because I don't want you wasting your time. If you're going to go out there and lowball every home, just stay home. You save on gas because you're not buying a house. I can tell you that right now. All right? But it's still a great time to buy because rates are still low. Home prices are still 17% below where they were in 2006. All right? So, if after hearing that you think it makes sense for you to buy now or at least explore the opportunity, what do you need to do? Well, you need to see if you can get pre-approved for a home. And this is huge before you go shopping. Because so many people set themselves up for failure. They go out and they say, John, I found this house. It's $250,000. I want to buy it. I'm in love with it. I go, whoa, slow down, Sparky. Remember I said you got to get pre-approved. I need your tax returns, your pay stubs. Oh, I got all that stuff now. Here's my pay stubs, tax returns, everything. All right, let me review it. We got a problem. What? Were you planning on coming up with an extra $50,000? No, I don't have that. Okay, well then you can only qualify to buy a $200,000 house. Here's the problem. If you went shopping and found a house for $250,000 that you thought you could buy and you wanted to buy, you moved in. Now I know you're looking at me going, what are you talking about, John? I didn't move in. Oh yes you did, because when you're in the house, you're like, I'm going to put my big screen TV right here, I'm going to put my couch right here. You moved all your stuff in that house. You even put stuff you don't even own yet. You say, oh, I found this table at IKEA, it's going to go perfect right here. So when you go look at the home that's in your price range at $200,000, what are you comparing it to? The house is $250,000 with all your stuff in it. Well, what's the problem? It's $200,000 for a reason. It don't look like the house is $250,000, or if it does, it ain't in the same neighborhood. So you're setting yourself up for failure by going shopping before you've done this. Because you may not even qualify. You may have to do some other action steps first before you qualify. So you're wasting your time, right? Gas is too expensive to be driving around to look at something you can't buy. So your first step is to find out what you qualify for, what's the payment going to be, how much money do you need. Because that way you don't waste time falling in love with a home that's out of your price range. Most importantly, you'll find out how much money we're going to lend you, what loan program. You'll know how much money you need, and then the most important thing of all is you need to know what's the payment going to be. Because just because I can approve you for the loan doesn't mean you can get it. The sad fact is I can probably approve over half of you for a loan that's bigger than what you really should be paying, which means you can't really afford it. That's the sad fact, is I can probably approve you for a loan that you can't really afford when we look at your budget. That's why I want to see your budget, because I'm not going to give you a loan you can't afford. Does that make sense? All right? So, that's why the pre-approval is huge. And one thing about payments, if you're looking on the internet and trying to calculate payments with their payment calculators, add about $200. They're completely wrong. If you're on Zillow, Homes.com, wherever, Trulia, wherever you're at, and you're using their payment calculator, it's wrong and it's way wrong. Add about $200. So, I was on Zillow, this house was $230, and the payment's only $1,000. Yeah, keep dreaming. All right, $230. Oh, FHA. Yeah, it's about $1,700 a month. Okay. Yeah, but truly it's $1,000. You're wrong. Okay, let me see. A website with no license and no accountability is right, and me who's licensed and been doing loans for 20 years is wrong. Don't think so. All right. So if you're using an online payment calculator, you're crazy. They're completely wrong. Okay. You need to get what your real payment would be from a mortgage person. All right. So some banks do what's called a pre-qual. But you don't want a pre-qual, you want a pre-approval. A pre-qual is a waste of your time and everyone else's time. If you've been pre-qualed, newsflash, you are not qualified to buy a home. A pre-qual is nothing. All it is someone checked your credit and you told them how much you make over the phone. That's a horror story waiting to happen. Okay? That is a horror story waiting to happen. If you've heard horror stories about people buying homes and it not working out and they're getting denied by the bank, it's because they went shopping on a pre-qual, not a pre-approval. A pre-approval is where they check your credit, they tell them how much you make, but then they actually calculate how much you really make by looking at your pay stubs, your W-2s, your tax returns, all that information. Then they got to look at your bank statements. Did you know your bank statements can get you denied for a loan? How many people knew that? One person? Yeah, your bank statements can get you denied for a loan. If you got NSFs or overdrafts, that's the same as bad credit. Because you're writing checks that won't what? That won't cash. You know what the most important thing we care about as the bank when we're lending you money? What do we want you to do? Pay us every month on time. How many times do we want you to pay us late? Never. So if we got any indication you're not going to pay us or not pay us on time, you're not giving you $200,000 to buy a house. It ain't happening. It ain't like you're borrowing $20 here, okay? So you need us to look at your bank statements, because if the other thing that can really screw you up is cash. Like cash. Like green money. You can't use cash to buy a house unless you're using all cash, and even then you can't. The attorney won't take all cash. You can't walk in an attorney's office with a briefcase full of cash and buy a house. Ain't happening, because the attorneys require to make sure you're not a terrorist or a mobster or any of that stuff. We have to, by federal law, source all money involved in a real estate transaction. So when we look at your bank statement, if you got a $5,000 cash deposit, you can't use that $5,000 to buy the house. So if you got $6,000 in your account and it's a $5,000 cash deposit, we're only going to give you credit for what? $1,000. So I need to see your bank statements, because now, before you go shopping, that way if you're doing something wrong, I can tell you how to fix it. So the first thing is, if you got an overdraft or NFS, stop it right now. Do not get another one ever. Alright? That is the worst thing you can be doing. Manage your money. If the money's not there, don't write the check. Don't swipe the debit card. Okay? And then if you've got cash deposits, we need to talk so we can figure out what they are, where they're coming from, and is there a way around it. Okay? The best thing to do is, if you got cash deposits, put them in a different bank account than the one you're going to show me, and don't let the two mix. Alright? Because if you transfer money from the bad account to the good account, you just screwed up the good account, because now I need to source the bad account. Alright? Okay, and then the most important thing is your pre-approval should tell you which loan program you qualify for. If you're doing an FHA loan, the property you're looking at says it does not qualify for FHA financing, do you have any business looking at that house? No, because you can't buy it with your loan. But if you do all that, you can go shopping with confidence that you're going to get the loan and get the house. Does that make sense? You want to do all the work up front, so if there's any issues that come up, we can fix them before you're talking about spending $500 for inspections that you don't get back, $450 for appraisal that you don't get back, your deposit, $500 to $1,000 that you may not get back. So when do you want to find out if you qualify? After you spend $1,500 that you could lose, or before you spend a dime? If you're smart, before you spend a dime. Alright, so are you ready to buy a home? The first question we need to ask is, do you have a steady source of income? Because that's what we lend on. We lend on your ability to pay us back every month, which is how much money you make determines how much you can pay back. Okay? Do you pay your bills on time? So that's why we look at your credit. We want to see, because there's two things. You might have the ability to pay, but we also want to check if you have the willingness to pay. Because I got people that make a lot of money and got bad credit. What that shows us is you can pay, you just don't want to pay. Right? And we're not going to buy the story, oh, don't worry, I don't pay them, but I'm going to pay you. No, you're not. You don't pay them, you ain't paying us. Alright? So we have to fix your credit first. So it's like your report card on how you pay. If your report card's bad, then we got to get it good, okay? Now, why do we look at your rent? Well, can we tell how you paid a mortgage in the past? No. You're a first-time home buyer, probably. If you're sitting here, you've never had one. So what's the next best thing we can check? Your rent. So if you're paying your rent on time, that's a huge factor. The underwriter is the person who says yes or no at the end of the day. They like it when you're paying rent and can prove it, because it's showing you've already making a housing payment. Now, what if you're living at home with mom? Does that mean you can't get a mortgage? No, it doesn't. It just means if I've got two people exactly the same, and one lives at home with mom and the other's paying $1,000 a month in rent, if everything else is the same, I'm going to lend him more money because he's got a housing history. I'll still lend her money, but she won't be able to push the guidelines higher. He can, because he's got a housing history. So just because you can't prove your rent or you're not paying rent doesn't mean you can't get a loan. It just means you can't push the guidelines higher. Okay? You have low to medium debt. If you're up to here in consumer debt with credit cards coming out the wazoo, we need to work on your budget to pay that down first. Because once you get a mortgage, you're not going to be paying down your consumer debt. So we need to do that now before you strap yourself with a mortgage. Do you have cash to close the cost of down payment? It costs money to buy a house. Alright? You can't even write a contract without a check. Minimum $500 just to write a check till you can put the contract in. Then the first thing, then you're going to write another check right away because you're going to get the house inspected. Alright, you're going to have a home inspection and pest inspection. That's about another $500. So right there, $1,000 you better have in your bank account. Does that make sense? Okay? So you're not, if you got $2 in your bank account, you're not ready to go shopping for a home. Now, if you have 2 months reserve of PITI, does anybody know what PITI is? It's not a rapper. That's your mortgage payment. Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So that's your payment. Now, what's a reserve? There's another definition for you. A reserve is money you have left over after you buy the home. So let's say you have $5,000. It's going to cost you $2,000 to get the home. So you'll have $3,000 left over. That's your reserve. Does that make sense? Now, if your mortgage payment is $1,000 a month, then we say you have a 3-month reserve. It's $3,000 is 3 months of mortgage payments. Now, as a first-time home buyer, a lot of the programs will let you buy a house with no money left over. You can literally spend all the money you got. Now, that may not be the smartest thing to do, but you could do it. And then the most important question that I'll ask you over and over again is, do you have the ability to make the mortgage payment? And how do you know how to answer that question? Because what do you have to do? Your budget. The answer to this question should not be yes. That's the wrong answer. It needs to be yes and then some. You need to be able to make the mortgage payment and still what? Save money. You do not want to live paycheck to paycheck. That is not a fun life. Alright? Some of you may be doing it now and it sucks. You're like, got paid, going shopping, alright. Woo, out of money. 3 days to payday. Alright, we're going to have gas and coast down. Oh, this sucks, no lunch. Oh, got paid, woo, going shopping, woo, alright. Oh, out of money, week to payday. This sucks. Hey, can I borrow $5 for some money to get some money? That's not how to live your life. You're living your life paycheck to paycheck and running out of money. I can guarantee why, because you're not doing a budget. You get the money, you spend it. Oh, I'm out, waiting for the paycheck. You're not saving. Newsflash, you ain't retiring because you're not saving. Right? You're going to be the 80-year-old person at the Walmart going, hey, how you doing? Nice day. Thanks for coming to Walmart. Or you'll be the 65-year-old lady at the drive-thru getting yelled at by the 17-year-old manager. Do you think that was her dream when she was 30? Hey, when I was 65, I really want to work in McDonald's drive-thru and have that 17-year-old tell me what to do. Well, she's there because she didn't plan to do anything different. Okay? So, what do you guys do? Here's your steps. I'm going to make it real easy. The first thing you have to do is do your budget. The budget is huge because it tells you what's happening with your money and what you can really afford. How many people here do a budget every month? 1, 2, 3, 4. In the back. Okay, good. The rest of you need to get on board. And the rest of you probably tell yourself this little white lie. If I only made a little bit more money, everything would be okay. You ever tell yourself that? Okay, well that's, oh crap. It's not true. Because if you made a little bit more money, guess what you'd do? You'd spend a little bit more money. I can give you a $100,000 a year raise right now, and you'd all be worse off in a year because you spend $120,000. I know you would. That's why you're having money problems now, because you don't do the budget. And if you think making $1 million a year would change your life, it won't. I'll give you tons of examples, but anyone know Allen Iverson? Made $154 million playing basketball. The dude should be set for life, right? No, he's got no money. None, he's negative. He's literally negative, and he can never earn that money ever again. Dennis Rodman, you know why he's drunk on TV in Korea? He made $54 million. Why is he drunk on TV in Korea? Because that's the only place he can work and make a paycheck now. He's done through the reality shows. He's dead broke. He's actually negative. I think he owes like $1 million in back alley. $54 million! What happens to 90% of professional athletes 3 years after they retire from the sport? File bankruptcy. Do you think you're any different? The only way you're different is you do what every month? A budget. Guys, I hear people complain all the time. I deal with thousands of clients a year. And they complain and I go, do you do your budget? No, that's not going to help. No, yeah, well. The reason why you don't do the budget is because you don't want to have to come to Jesus meeting with yourself. When you go, hey, I didn't save any money this month. And I spent $500 on clothes. Woo! Yeah, it don't really work out. Okay, I'll just ignore it. Right? Because you can't justify why you spent $500 on clothes and saved no money. Or you actually went negative because you charged it on a credit card that you can't pay off when the bill comes. Right? Do the budget, guys. It will change your life forever. I don't care if I never see you again. If you take one thing from this seminar, take that I'm going to do a budget once a month. It's an hour out of your life that will change your financial future forever. Because once you start looking at what you're spending, you have to act like an adult now, right? You got to put your big boy pants on and go, right, I guess I can't buy a new pair of shoes because I didn't save any money. Right? And then you'll save money. And once you start saving money, there's a funny thing that happens to you. It becomes addictive. Because it's like awesome. You start seeing money in an account. $25, $50, $100, $1,200, $2,000. It gets nice that you're like, wow, I got this money. If something ever happened, I'm okay. Right? So do the budget, guys. The second thing is get the credit check. That's huge. I don't care if you're not buying until the end of the year. You need a credit check right now because the credit bureaus don't work for you. They don't even like you. And the only reason they let you get a copy is because Congress said they had to with the law. But the reason why they don't like you is because they don't make any money off you. Who do they make money from? People like us, the creditors. We have to pay them money to report information about you, good or bad. The credit bureaus cost money to talk to you because they got to pay somebody to talk to you and they make no money off you. Does that make sense? That's why they don't like you. All right? You're just an expense to them. But they'll love to sell your information to whoever wants to buy it. You ever go shopping for a car and all of a sudden you're getting calls about car loans and emails and mail about car loans? Well, the car dealer didn't tell people you were shopping for a car loan because they want to do the car loan. You know who told them? The credit bureaus. When you got your credit checked by that car dealer, the credit bureau said, hey, anybody want a single lady buying a car with a 680 credit score that makes about $50,000 a year? I'll give you her name, address, and phone number and email address. You just got to pay it. That's totally legal. Did you guys know that? Now, there is a way to stop it. Congress, your lovely Congress, pretty much said, we're going to opt you all in to having your information sold, and then you just have to opt out. How many people got that memo that you had to opt out? All right, if you didn't, I'm going to tell you where to go. It's www.optoutprescreen.com. O-P-T-O-U-T prescreen.com. That'll stop them from selling your information. What happens is if I check your credit, they're going to sell it to old collection agencies who will slap the collection on even if it's not accurate because they know I'm going to make you pay it to get the money. Well, guess what? If you opt out first, they can't do that. Okay? So get the credit check. Find out what's on there. If there's stuff wrong, we got to get it fixed. All right? Do you have an emergency fund? If you don't have an emergency fund right now, your goal is to get 1 month's worth of bills in a short-term savings account. I do not recommend your savings with the same bank as your checking. I do not recommend that. Here's why. You're at the store, you see a new pair of shoes, it's not in the checking account, but it's in the savings, and here's how you justify it to yourself. It's okay, I'm just going to move it from the savings, and it's okay because I'm going to what? I'm just going to put it back. What's the problem? We don't ever put it back, right? So, you want your savings at a different bank that does not have a checking account so that you have to electronically transfer it to your checking account, which will take 1 to 2 days. And then you can't impulse spend your savings. That's what I recommend. Because contrary to what my wife thinks, a new pair of shoes is not an emergency. So that's why we don't have a checking account with our emergency fund. Alright? And then the last thing is, how many of you have a financial plan? I can follow you home, you pull it out, show it to me. One? That's not half, yes or no. Kind of, sort of.
I'm a lawyer.
Oh, okay. So, guys, here's what the financial plan is. How many of you want to work till you drop dead? Well, all of you, I don't see any hands up, so you're going to unless you have a plan not to. And it's not that hard. People think it's complicated, that's why they don't do it. It's like, you're lucky I knew you were coming today. Here's an easy, short cash flow priority plan. The first thing you got to do is define your financial goals. If you're in this room, I know you want to buy a house, that's why you're here, or you're just bored on a Saturday, one of the two. Alright? So, that can be a short-term goal, what you're trying to do in the next 6 months, or it could be a long-term, 1 to 5 years. But you got to define it, because that way you can write the steps down to accomplish it. For example, you want to buy a house, I already gave you the steps. Do your budget, get your credit checked, right? Get your emergency fund, and then you need to go for a pre-approval. That's the plan to buy a house. Budget, credit check, emergency fund, get pre-approved. Easy plan, right? Now, if you want to retire, it's easy. We can do it right now. Pick the age you want to retire. Let's say it's 65. Pick how much money you want to make every year in retirement. Let's say it's $50,000. And now pick the age you want to die. Sounds funny, but that's how we do it. They used to use 85. So right now you should be using 95 because people live longer because you don't want to run out of money. It's the worst thing that can happen. So, retire at 65. You want $50,000 a year. You're going to die at 95. That's 30 years. So if you're going to just have a lump sum of money, you would take 50,000 times 30. If you had that lump sum of money at 65, you could retire and draw 50 grand off that account every year and you run out of money right when you die. Now, you can make that number go way down if you invest that money. Because you'll get a return on your money, so the pot of money goes way down. Now, I recommend using an 8% rate of return. You shouldn't be going anything higher than that. And you can go on the internet and get these financial calculators, which will basically, what you do is you want to calculate It'll calculate, if you put the numbers in, how much money you need based on an 8% annual rate of return at retirement. So let's say it's $1 million. Okay? Then you take your age, let's say you're 40, you want to retire at 65, that gives you how many years to save money? 25. Use the 8% annual rate of return, it'll break down how much money you need to save every year, starting right now, to hit retirement at 65. Now, if you can't save that much, then you got to lower the amount of money you're going to take in retirement or die sooner. One or two. Okay? Most people probably like drop the money versus die sooner. But it's up to you. You can live hard and fast or slow and long. So that's how you do it. That's how you calculate your retirement income. You just got to figure out the number you need to hit, and then you take that and figure out how much you need to save per month, and then you just start doing it. You just start saving it. So on your budget, it's real easy. If you hit your savings goal every month, who cares what else you spend? I don't really care what else you spend as long as you hit your savings goal and pay all your bills. Now, if you miss your savings goal, then next month, what do you got to do? Make it up to get yourself back on track. That's how you do a budget. It's easy. So do the budget, analyze your cash flow, get your emergency fund, get rid of unhealthy debt, credit card debt, get rid of it. When's it acceptable to carry a balance on your credit card from one month to the next? Anybody know when it's okay? Never! It's never okay. If you can't pay it off, there's a simple rule. Don't charge it. If you can't write the check at the end of the month, don't charge it. You'll never have a problem. Credit card companies don't like that, but hey, who cares about them, right? Now, they still make money. They make money off me, and I pay my credit card off every single month. Now, how do they make money off me? Because they charge the merchants, I charge them a fee. So that's how they do the cash back. Now, if you ever carry a balance from one month to the other, you didn't get any cash back, because that cash back is way less than the interest they charge you. All right, so you don't think you're making money. You're not. You're still spending way more interest than you ever should. So never get rid of that unhealthy debt. Save for your financial goals, and then get the proper insurance, which is what most people miss. Anyone have kids in here? All right, all of you that have kids should have life insurance, because it's really income protection. What you need to do is take your salary. Let's say you make 30 grand a year. If your kid's 10, you need to get 8 times 30, because you need to have enough money to take them to what age? 18. That's how you calculate how much life insurance you need. Now, the rest of you, and then you need to add about 15 to 20 grand on top so they can pay for what? Your burial. The rest of you that don't have kids, you still need insurance or you're a scumbag. Here's why. When you die, not only are you dead and your family's probably upset. I don't know you personally, but they're probably upset. But they got to pay your freaking funeral. I had a girl in the fall, had worked to save up for down payment. Her mom passed away, had no insurance. She was just getting ready to make an offer on a house. She had to spend her down payment for the funeral. Her and her brother had to split. It's going to take her about 1.5 years to save that money back up. Thanks, Mom. Right? So don't be that person. It's ridiculously cheap for burial insurance. You're talking like $5 a month, if that. Alright? So that's what I'm saying. It's all part of the plan. Don't be a burden to your family if something happens to you. And if you have children, don't put your family in destitute because they lost your income. Not only did they lose you, they lost your income. So get the proper insurance. Alright. Budgeting. I use an Excel spreadsheet, the one in your packet. I'll email it out to you guys. But if you like computers, there's a great free program, mint.com. A lot of my clients love it. You can make graphs and track it. It's free. Alright? I've done everything, and I just do an Excel spreadsheet once a month. It takes about an hour. Print out my bank statements, print out my credit card statement, and do my budget. Alright? If I miss my savings goal, I make it up the next month. It's real easy. But I'm tracking how much comes in, how much goes out. And I'm making sure I'm saving for what I need to save for. So mint.com is you can track it online. A lot of my clients love it. Alright, so back to the loan. When you give us all that information, pay stubs, W-2s, tax returns, bank statements, we're really taking this whole pile of information, and it's a lot, and boiling it all down to basically 2 things. Loan to value, which is how much we'll lend you compared to the purchase price, and how much we'll let you borrow based on your income. So all that information boils down to these 2 things. Now, there's a lot of calculations, a lot of work that goes into that, but basically loan to value is, let's say you want to buy a house for $200,000. If you want to borrow $200,000, that's called 100% loan to value. You're not putting anything down. Is there any vets in here? 1, 2? Put it up. You should be proud of your vet. Thank you for serving, okay? Oh, you're kind of like a vet. Oh, your husband. Okay, so you're a vet by marriage.
There you go.
All right, cool. So, first of all, thanks for serving, but you guys get the best loan ever. Don't let anyone talk you out of your vet loan. It's 100% financing, no monthly mortgage insurance. You can have challenge credit, and you get the best rate. The only reason you wouldn't do a VA loan is because a guy like me talks you out of them because they're a lot more work for me. They're kind of a pain for me. That's why people tell you not to do them, because they're telling you, I don't really want to do all the work. Let's do this other loan that's a lot easier. It's worse for you, but it's much easier for me. And it's really all about me. So, I love vets. The loan's tough, but it's not tough for you. It's easy for you. Okay? It really is. It's just more work for me. But that's not your problem, right? That's what I get paid to do. So, don't let anyone talk you out of your VA loan. You can get 100% financing. The rest of us, the only other way to get 100% loan to value is something called a USDA loan. It's 100% financing. It's the second best loan. Okay? But it has monthly mortgage insurance. So you have a slightly higher payment. Okay? The third best is an FHA, and that's what most of the rest of the first-time home buyers do is an FHA. And you can't get 100% financing with FHA. You have to put down a 3.5% down payment because we will only lend you 96.5%. Now, if you're not a vet and you want to avoid the monthly mortgage insurance, you got to put down 20%. That means your loan to value can only be 80%. Most first-time home buyers don't do that because they don't have the 20% to put down. So they're doing either an FHA or a USDA. The vets are just going to do a VA. So that's the first piece of the puzzle, calculating how much you can borrow compared to the purchase price. The second piece is we calculate what we call your debt-to-income ratio. We take your gross monthly income. So that's the money you make before what? Before taxes, okay? So let's say we take your gross monthly income, and then we're going to take your new housing payment. The guideline says you should spend 31% of your gross income or less for your housing payment. That's the top number. 31% of your gross income should be used for your housing payment or less. Now the bottom number is we look at your gross income again, plus your housing payment and the other minimum payments on your credit report. The guideline for that is 43% or less. Okay? Now, here's where people get in trouble. You can actually push those ratios higher than that. If you stayed at 31-43, you would never have a problem paying your mortgage and you'd still save money. The problem is, we'll let first-time home buyers push it on an FHA loan from 31 all the way up to 46%. Now think about that. You're spending 46% of your gross income just on your housing payment. And they'll let you push your bottom number all the way up to 56, 57%. Now how much do you really get to take home with your gross? If you're lucky, about 70, right? And if you're spending 56 for your housing and only the bills on your credit report, that don't leave much for all your bills. Because most of your bills aren't on your credit report, are they? Gas, food, daycare, going out to eat, groceries, all that kind of stuff. That doesn't show up on your credit report. That's why you want to do the budget, to get you really what you can afford. Okay? So, that's how we calculate what you qualify for. We do the top number, which is your housing expense, and the bottom number is your housing plus your other bills. That's why I want to see your budget, guys, because if I go off what I'm required to go off of, I can lend you more than you can afford. And that's a problem for you. Because guess how I'm paid? I'm paid a commission off your loan size. So if I'm working for me, do I want you to get a small loan or a big loan? Big loan, right? So this is a real easy way to know if I'm working for you. If you come in for a pre-approval, and I say, hey, I got you pre-approved, you can go all the way up to $200,000, all right? Cool, here's your pre-approval letter. That's awesome. Now go shopping. What's the problem with that? I don't know if she can afford it, right? Here's how it should start. Hey, how are you, Jackie? What's the most you can afford to pay per month? $1,000. Great. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to see if I can get you qualified for $1,000. I'll tell you what that is for purchase price. Okay, I crunched all the numbers. That's about $155 or less. So if you don't want to go over $1,000 a month, you want to do $155 for a purchase price or less. Don't go over that. Now, did I tell her how much she qualified for? No. Does she need to know how much she qualifies for? You're going to have to ask me like 5 times before I tell you. Because I don't want to put that number in your head. Because here's what happens. I go, hey, Jackie, $1,000 a month, that's $155. The good news, I got you pre-approved all the way up to $200. Go shop for a house. I just set her up for failure. You know why? Human nature. You're going to buy your house emotionally, not logically. So you're going to start looking at homes that are $155 or less. There's going to be an open house for one that's $170. She has no intention of buying it, but she goes in. Guess what happens? Does it look like what she's been looking at? Nope. It looks way better. That's why it's 170, not 155. And now it's in the back of her head. Well, John said I can go up to 200. This one's only 170, so I'm being conservative. And she starts justifying why now she can afford the house. Well, you know, if I only eat 3 days a week and I walk to work, I can do this. And she knows she can get the loan because I said 200. So you want to figure out what's the most you can afford to pay a month with your budget, and then you want to see if you can get pre-approved for a loan with that payment. Who cares if you can go higher, right? If someone's telling you how high you can go, they're not working for you. Do not call them back. All right? Okay, so first thing you got to understand is I'm what's called a loan officer. So when you need to get the mortgage, you talk to me first. I'm the guy who's supposed to collect your pay stubs, your W-2s, all that stuff. I'm the guy who's supposed to review it and then give you a pre-approval letter. Some of us do, some of us don't. Some of us don't even make you turn it in, they do a pre-qual. If someone pre-quals you and tells you to go shopping, guess what you should do? Never ever call them back. Because who are they working for? They're being lazy. Not working for you. Yeah, here's your pre-qual, go shopping, because they don't have to do any work. Just check your credit and crunch some numbers. And they'll figure it out once you've spent your money and you're under contract if you go to qualify. So the pre-approval is where I review all that up front. But guess what? Is it my decision that you get the loan? No. It goes to two other people. The next person in line is called the processor, who reviews all your information, verifies everything by calling your employer and having them filling out some stuff, making sure all your documents match up, making sure they're not too old, making sure they're all within the guidelines, and then they send it to the person that makes the decision. That person is called an underwriter. That's the person that says yes or no. Now the good news is, I know what the underwriter looks at to say yes or no. So guess what I do first? I look at it. They're looking at three things: your income, your assets, and your credit. So I can review it, and I can tell you whether she's going to say yes or no or not. And if I have a question, guess what I do? Hey, Miss Underwriter, this is what I got. It's kind of great. What would you do there? Okay, get you that, and that, and you'll say yes. Okay. Hey, can you get me that, and that? Yeah. Oh, good. Underwriter said you can get the loan. Let's go. As your pre-approval, go shopping. Okay. So, income. Let's take a look at it. What are we looking for from a bank? We're looking for a steady employment history because we're trying to project you're going to keep working so that you can keep doing what? Pay us, right? If your employment history is real shaky because you don't like to work, you ain't getting a loan. If you haven't been working for the last 5 years and been working for a month, you ain't getting a loan. You got no job history. Now, there are some exceptions to the rule. If you've been in school for the last 4 years and just graduated as a nurse, and now you're working in Bay Health, you've only been there a month, you can get a loan because we're going to use your schooling history as your employment history. But if you graduate as a nurse and you're driving a truck, then you got a problem. Right? So, if you're self-employed, you have to be self-employed for 2 years because we've got to average your income off your taxes. So if you've been working a W-2 job and just got the brilliant idea you're going to open your own business, call me in 2 years. Or go back to your W-2 job. That's the only two choices you got. Okay? If everyone else is a wage earner, someone pays you. Here's where people get in trouble with a pre-qual. If you say, hey, I make $15 an hour, I work 40 hours a week, and I pre-approve you off that, but then when you get an underwriter and get your pay stubs, they go, ooh, you work 35 hours this week, you work 38 that week, you work 40, then you work 37. That whole calculation is wrong. Because do you really work 40 hours every week? Nope. And guess what the underwriter is going to do now? Average your income over the last 2 years. You think that's going to change what you qualify for? Yeah. So when do you want to give us your pay stubs? Up front for a pre-approval or wait till your loan's an underwriter? Alright? So, how your income's calculated, if you're salaried, it's easy. We go off your salary. Now if you get overtime or bonuses, you can use those as qualifying income, but there's some guidelines. You have to have gotten them for the last 2 years. You have to be getting it right now, and it can't be going down. Declining income is a huge problem. Because we have to project you're going to stay employed and project your income. If it's going down, what are we going to project? It's going to keep going down. We're going to say no. Alright? So, declining income is something we need to look at because that could be a potential problem. If you have a second job, you can use a second job for qualifying as long as you've had a second job for 2 years. You can currently have a second job and the income's not what? Declining. So if you just cut your hours on your second job, done, you can't use it. Alright? And I always say there's exceptions for schooling, there's exceptions for seasonal, like carpenters usually get laid off every year, collect unemployment, we allow for that, we calculate based off that. So a lot of union jobs can have that, okay? So there's always exceptions to the rule. But I don't say no, I either say yes, you're pre-approved, or I'll tell you when. look, just wait 4 months because you'll have enough time with this new job and you'll be good to go. Now, changing jobs, I get that question a lot. Is that bad? Not necessarily. You can change jobs because if you're going to make more money, that's a good thing. We like that, okay? It's just there's some rules. If you change while you're under contract, that could be a problem because if you change jobs, then we're going to have to wait for you to get a paycheck before you can close. So you're better off waiting until after you close to change the job or change job before you get under contract. It just gets tricky when you're in the middle of a contract and you decide to change a job. That can be a problem, okay? And the problem is you may have to extend your settlement date while we wait to get your new pay stubs because we got to verify your new income. All right, assets. Talked about this, but I need to emphasize it. Cash is bad. Cash, like green money that you deposit in the bank, is bad. If you got $5 grand cash in your safe right now, you got a problem. The good news is we're required to look at your last 60 days of bank statements. So if you got cash and you want to make it legal for me, you put it in the bank now and wait how long? 60 days. If it's been in your account for 60 days, I don't care where it came from. The only problem you're going to have is you can't borrow unsecured money to buy a house. That means you can't take a cash advance on your credit card. When we look at your credit report, if you took a cash advance for the last 6 months, we're going to have to see your bank statements for the last 6 months. Just a little news, I had somebody do that, okay? You cannot take a cash advance unless you want to wait 6 months to use it. It means you got to sit in your savings account. You can get a secured loan. You can take a title loan against your car. Now, the other thing you can do is your mom can get a cash advance on her credit card and then gift you the money. But it better be a gift. We will, the loans, us as banks, after your loan closes, you could get pulled for an audit and they'll call your mom. Hey, that gift of $5,000, was that a gift? No, they're paying me back. You're in trouble. Because guess what you just committed? Loan fraud. So you better make darn sure, hey mom, I'm paying you back. If someone calls from the bank, make sure you say it's a gift, mom. Okay? I'm not paying you back. You got me? Okay. Because after the fact, they'll do an audit, they're random, they'll call gift owners and ask them, hey, you gave that gift? Yeah. No, it wasn't. Are they paying you? No, they're not paying you back. It's a gift. Okay? Make sure you give them the script. All right? So we want to see 2 months savings, checking, CDs, whatever you have. We look at every deposit that goes in there. It's required by federal law to source your deposit. So just make sure if your paycheck goes in, it says direct deposit, then we don't need anything else. Matches your paycheck, no problem. But do not take a hard check, cash it, and spend half of it and then deposit the rest. Can I match that up to your paycheck? No. Your paycheck's $1,000, you deposit $500. How do I know that's your paycheck? You need to deposit your paycheck and then what? Take the cash out. Okay? Retirement accounts are a great source of money if you need to buy a home. Almost all of them have a special provision where you can borrow off your 401k, your 403b to buy a house with no penalty. Now you do pay interest, but guess who you pay the interest to? Back to your own account yourself. That's great. So if you have those, you got homework. On Monday, check to see what your balance is and what you can borrow off to buy a home. Not saying we're going to, we just want to know all your options. Okay? Life insurance policies have a cash value. Same thing, you can borrow off them or cash them in. Non-liquid assets, we don't care about non-liquid assets, cars, jewelry, all that, unless you sell it. And if you sell it, don't sell it for what? Cash. Right. Okay? Get a check and a bill of sale. Now, when we talk about this, when you write a sales contract and make an offer, you have to write a check. Do not do a money order. Do not go to Western Union and get a money order. Can I source where that money came from? That's cash. You need to write a check or get a certified check from your bank. Either a personal check or a certified check so we can trace it back to your bank account. When your loan goes to underwriting, that's what you're going to ask for. I need to see your bank statement to source your deposit check. Which means the check needs to come from who? You. Your mom, if she's not on the loan, shouldn't be writing your check. Now she can write you a check as a gift, and then you write the check. Okay? And we talked about you have to source every deposit. All right, credit. There's different credit scoring models. Banks only use the FICO scoring model when you go to buy a home. It goes between 350 and 850. Okay? Trade lines are items that report, like a credit card, car loan, student loan. Those are called trade lines. They can be good or bad. We want to see good trade lines. We talked about a lot of reports can have errors, guys, because the customers don't work for you, so they'll report whatever someone pays them to report. So there can be a lot of inaccurate stuff. That's why we need the credit check now. So if they're inaccurate, we can fix it. Now, if you're in a bind and your lease is up and you're trying to buy in the next 2 months, well, we got to get your score up. Sometimes it can take time, but we have the option, if you can get proof, to do what's called a rescore. It takes 3 to 5 business days. So that's an option to get your score up real quick if we can. Now, When we pull your credit, there's 3 bureaus we check. There's Equifax, TransUnion, Experian. Every bank's the same. So you theoretically should get 3 scores. So what do? We take your middle score. We don't average them, we take your middle score. So if you got a 780 score, which is really good, and then a 640 and a 641, guess what your qualifying score is? 641, the middle score. Okay? So you get 3 scores. Most banks want to have a 640 to qualify without any, what we call overlays, any extra restrictions. Some banks won't even go below 640. Okay? Now, VA, most banks will go down to 620 on the VA. They're a little bit more lenient on the vets. Another reason why they go to the VA loan. So, if you want to get a copy of your credit report, fill out that paper. I'll check it at the end. Now, what if you went to Credit Karma, freecreditreport.com, and got your score? Guess what? That's not your score. Did you know that? That will not be the score I pull. Because when you go pull your own score, it's missing a piece. Part of the scoring model is influenced by the creditor pooling it. It's supposed to show me how likely you are to pay me 90 days late in the next 24 months. So when you get your own score, they don't know what you're trying to apply for, so that piece of the puzzle can't be factored into your score. So unless your score is over 720, if it's over 720, it's going to be in the 700s no matter who pulls it. But if your score is in the 600s or the 500s, you can see a 40, 50 point difference between what I pull, Credit Karma pulls, car dealership pulls, because at that point, who you're applying for has a big influence. So if you want to know what your score is for applying for a mortgage, who has to pull it? Me, a mortgage company. So that's why I have that form in there. But I'm not going to check your credit till Monday because I want everyone to do their homework. Remember we talked about this in the beginning? I want you to go to this website, optoutprescreen.com. O-P-T-O-U-T prescreen.com. Opt out before I pull it so they don't sell that you're looking for a mortgage because old collections could stop popping up. Or they could have people start calling you pretending they're me and they're not. Oh yeah, we checked your credit on Saturday. Oh, I got an appointment Wednesday. Don't worry, we're going to do it now on the phone. Total lie. Alright? So, you want to do that opt-out pre-screen this weekend. Now, how's your score used to qualify for a mortgage? Your score determines your maximum loan to value. We talked about that earlier, whether you can borrow 100% or only 80% or whatever. So your score can affect that. Your score can also affect your interest rate. It's called risk-based pricing. The lower your score, higher your rate can be, depending on the loan program you're applying for. Good news, VA loan, that don't affect your score. All right? Your score determines which program you qualify for. We talked about that. Most banks want a 640 score for an FHA loan, which is what most first-time home buyers use. Even if you want to use the first-time home buyer program, they have a 640 minimum score. If you don't need the program, you could go below the 640. We're one of the few banks that will go below 640. We'll go down to 500 on an FHA. But before you get too excited, I've never done one at 500 because your credit goes up. All right? We're just basically saying that we're not going to just use the score. We're going to look at the whole file. Alright? Alright, getting a mortgage with no credit, you can't, so we'll skip that. You've got to have a credit score, guys. If you don't have a credit score, you're not getting a loan, because it means you have no credit, so we can't assess your risk. So if you have no credit, you have to build credit. It'll take 6 months to get a score from the first time something reports. So, the tools we use to establish credit, because having no credit is the same as bad credit. Nobody wants to give you credit if you have no credit, so it's a catch-22. How do I get credit? You don't give me credit. You can get something called a secured credit card. You give them $300, they give you a credit card with a $300 limit. They keep your $300 as long as you got the card open. If you want your $300 back, you've got to cancel the card and turn it back in. They give you your $300 back. Now, how you use the card affects your credit. I don't care what kind of credit card you have, unsecured or secured, how you use it affects your score. Every single month your score can change based on how you use your credit card. So this is what you need to know. You may want to write this down if you have a credit card. If you keep the balance on your credit card below 30% of the limit, so on a $300 card, if you keep it $89 or less, you actually get bonus points. As soon as you hit 30%, which on a $300 card is $90, you lose the bonus points. If you charge it up to 50%, which is on a $300 card is $150, they start taking points away because they're saying you're using too much of your credit. If you charge it up to 80%, they take even more points away. If you max it out at 100%, they take even more points away. And if you go over the limit, they take even more points away. So if your credit cards are maxed out and we need to get your score up, guess what we can do to get your score up? Get your credit cards up. So, As soon as you change the balance on your credit card and it reports, guess what happens to your score? It changes. Well, it goes up or down depending on what you do. If you charge it up, it's going to go down. If you pay it down, it's going to go up. So you've got to manage your credit card. You should keep them below 50%. You shouldn't really go over, hit 50 or go over because you're going to lose points. If you can keep them below 30, you get the bonus points, but at least keep them below 50. If you're maxed out and over the limit, pay them down, your score will go up. Okay? So that's what I have here. Keep the balance below 30%. Pay more than the minimum. Try to pay it off if you can every month. Now, if you want to borrow someone else's credit, you can get added as what's called a joint applicant. Do not get added as an authorized user. It will not help you. It can only hurt you. If you're an authorized user on anyone's account right now, I recommend you get taken off. Because authorized users cannot help you. They can only hurt you. If you want to borrow someone else's good credit card, you have to get added as a joint applicant. And then the most important thing is to make payments on time. If you had a 720 credit score right now, which is good, and you paid your credit card 30 days late, your score would drop almost 100 points. You would go from good credit to bad credit because of one late payment. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but think about it. If your payment's due May 1st, and you don't pay it till June 1st, you went 30 days without paying it. You're now at risk. Because how many times do creditors want you to pay them late? Never. So as soon as you make one late payment, you're now a bad credit risk. It will take you 2 years to get those points back from that one late payment. So if you're trying to build good credit, I can't stress enough, pay it on time. Now here's another thing you need to know about credit cards. They have 2 payment dates. The one on the bill is the last date you have to pay it by without getting the late fee. But the other date that they don't tell you on your statement is the report date. You need to call them and find out when the report date is because you always want to pay it the day before the report date because then it'll always report the lowest possible balance. Because a lot of people are paying their credit cards off every month, but they're still getting hit because they maxed it out. Let's say you got a $1,000 limit. You charge $1,000. It reports to the credit bureau that you have $1,000 charge and a $1,000 limit. Then you pay it. But it's already reported. And then what do? Charge it back up. Then it reports what? You're maxed out again every month. You're getting reported maxed out. So you want to call them and find out when the report date is. Pay them before the report date so you always have the lowest possible balance so you get the most points every month. Does that make sense? All right? Now, what if you have bad credit? Well, the first thing to do is pay your bills on time. Because if you keep paying them late, your score's going to keep going down. You'll never get good credits. The second thing is look at your credit card balances. Pay them down below 50 if possible. 30 is even better. Don't close an account. If you close an account, your score will drop because you lose the credit history. Everyone hear me? I have clients that someone gave them bad advice. They said, pay off your credit cards, which can be good advice, but then they said, close them. No. If you close your credit cards, you lost the entire credit history. Your score tanks. Pay off recent collections can help your score, but paying off old collections can actually lower your score. I can't go into why, but just if I review your credit report, I'll tell you which ones to pay and which ones not to. And then again, get added as a joint applicant, do not do authorized user. And then part of building credit is, if you got bad credit, we can get rid of the bad stuff. If you don't have any good stuff, your score is only going to go so high. So you have to have good credit. So if you have bad credit and no open good credit, you need to get a secure credit card. All right? So you can go to this website, buddyroyal.com/applied-card to get a credit card, secure card. You give them $300, they give you a credit card, $300 limit. Okay? You can also Google Capital One, they do a secure credit card. I don't like Capital One personally, because they do illegal stuff on collections, but they do have a good secure card. Alright, credit repair. Is it legal? Yes. It's regulated by the FTC. Are there scam companies out there? Yes, there's scam companies out there. If you need credit repair, I have a guy I've been working with about 8 years. He charges a flat fee of $300. He'll help you fix your credit. He'll also help you negotiate settlements. Everywhere else I've seen is between $500 and $2,000 for someone to do the exact same thing. Okay? The guy I recommend, he used to work for TransUnion as the dispute department manager guy, so he was the evil guy on the other side that was paid not to help you. He got tired of being a scumbag, so he opened his own credit repair company to help the consumers. So he knows what works, what doesn't. If I pull your credit and it's not where it needs to be, he'll do a free analysis for us and we'll go over it. That's part of the Get Mortgage Ready plan. Okay? But he's really good. And he fixes it, he does what he says, and he does it fast. Okay? And if you need to settle stuff, he's real good at settling. You just sign a power of attorney for him, he contacts the creditor, he'll do a settlement. The only thing is you've got to have the money for the settlement. Because if he negotiates a settlement, it's only good for 30 days. If he has to go back and renegotiate again, they always make it higher. So you don't want to negotiate settlements until you know you have the money to pay. Okay? So if you need the credit repair, that's something we can talk about individually. Now back to the homes. The one in the picture is called a single family residence. What that is means it's not attached to any other home. Okay? A townhouse or a row home is attached to another home. You can buy an interior unit or an end unit. Okay? Sometimes they can be twins, where it's just two homes attached, but those are called attached. A condominium can be like a townhome or like an apartment. What you're basically doing is only buying the inside, not the outside. That's what a condominium is. The downside to a condominium is you have to pay a monthly condo fee of anywhere from $200 to $500. And your rate will be higher on a condo because we penalize you for buying a condo because they're riskier than a regular townhome or a single family. The reason why they're riskier is the value of your condo depends on everybody else in the condo association. If too many people go delinquent on their condo fees, it's going to be real tough to get a loan. Every time someone buys a condo, the bank doing the loan has to recheck the condo to make sure it qualifies. If more than 15% of the people are delinquent on their dues, 99% of the banks will not give you a loan to buy that condo. So what do you think is going to happen to the value of your condo if 99% of the banks won't lend on it? It's going to go down. So that's why you better make darn sure if you're buying a condo, you better check out that condo association. You better make sure they got a good budget, a good reserve, and good management. If they don't, move on. Okay? It's not worth it. Manufactured home can be a 3-built home or a mobile home. Single wides are bad. Nobody wants to finance those. Double wides are okay. The only thing about a mobile home is the value of your is not going to go up like a regular home. They do not appreciate as well, and it's tougher to get a loan. Most banks won't finance the mobile homes. And you have to buy the land. Do not buy a mobile home with a lot rent. First of all you're really doing is buying a car and renting the ground underneath it. When you go to sell that, you will lose money every single time. So if you're thinking about a mobile home, you better make darn sure you're buying it on a lot of land. Okay? And just know that it's not as good an investment as a single family or a townhome, just because of the nature of the beast. They're prefab, pre-structured homes do not appreciate as well as a regular home. Okay? All right. New construction. New construction is you go to a builder. There's a bunch around here, especially in Smyrna, and you're going to buy a home from them that they're going to build for you. That's fine, but you better be prepared. The builder is working for who? Themselves, to make as much money as possible. I recommend you do not go to a builder without your own buyer's agent. Because the buyer's agent is going to negotiate on your behalf. If you walk into a builder's site without your own agent, you've got something scribbled on your forehead. You know what it says? It says sucker. Alright? You're going to pay more than you should, and you're going to get less concessions than you should. And they're going to try and strong arm you into not having a realtor, using their lender and their attorney, which all costs you more money. Okay? But if you come with a realtor, most of the builders around here are pretty good. Okay? There's one that's really bad, but the rest of them are okay. The one I would not recommend, from personal experience, is Ryan Homes. Okay? They try and insulate you from everybody. They don't want you to have a realtor. They want you to use their own lender, which causes it's more money and a higher rate. They make you use their own attorney, which the fee is ridiculous. And you have no legal representation, because who are they going to, if it comes down to it, who are they working for? You or Ryan Homes? Right. And they build a piece of crap. That's the big reason. They build a piece of crap. But they're smart about it. They know how to build a piece of crap that won't be a piece of crap until after the warranty's up. They know everything that's going to break and when it's going to break, and they've got it down to a science that everything will go wrong after the warranty. How do I know? I bought one. First right out of college, before I was even in this business. I call it the money pit. Alright? And I could go on and on about the stuff that was wrong, and where they skimmed, and how I had to spend the money, because by the time I found out they did inferior construction, it was after the what? Warranty expired, okay? There was a bunch of stuff. So, there's a lot of good builders, Ashburn Homes, LC Homes, Lenape's okay. Lenape, the home is cheaper. It's cheaper for a reason. Why do you think it's cheaper? It's inferior construction. Alright? So Lenape's homes look a lot cheaper, but you're getting what you pay for. They're not using the same building materials as an Ashburn. Ashburn homes, a little more expensive, but they're using better insulation, they're using better building materials, they're not cutting corners. So guys, you get what you pay for, right? It's the difference between buying, you buy a Yugo or you buy a Lexus, you're going to get two different types of construction. So if something's cheaper, it's cheaper for a reason. That's where you need a buyer's agent. I'm not telling you not to buy a Lenape. You just got to understand that if you're buying a Lenape home, you're not going to get something like an Ashburn home or maybe an LC home, okay? It's different quality of construction. But that might be out of your price range. So you might have to buy that and know what you're getting, and that's your starter home, and then you're going to sell that eventually and move up. The only one I just don't recommend because it's a piece of crap for you, right? All right, different loan types. Fixed rate, adjustable rate, interest only, 30-year, 15-year. Most people say, what's the best one? 30-year fixed, right? Maybe. Maybe. Depends on you and your situation. Don't get brainwashed into thinking you should never get an ARM. An ARM means it's an adjustable rate mortgage. That means it can adjust up or what? Down. Everyone has an ARM right now is ecstatically happy. Because everyone's ARM has adjusted which way? Down. But they could eventually do what? Go up. Let me tell you how I bought my first house. I wasn't in the business. So I wasn't a loan officer. I had no clue about mortgages. My dad said, hey, you just got out of college, buy a home, it's a good investment. How do I do that, Pop? You'll figure it out. You just got a college degree. That's my dad. So, I go to a bank. He tells me get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Alright, sounds like a winner to me. So I get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage. Who wants my mortgage? Anybody want it? I got the best mortgage, right? How come nobody's excited about my mortgage? Okay, the problem is, I fixed it at a point when mortgage rates were at a 3-year high and were trending lower. And what did I do with my rate? Fixed it for 30 years. Well, rates went down for the next 6 years. A year and a half later, I refinanced into the 7s. I still wasn't in the business, so guess what I got? Another 30-year fixed rate mortgage. So rates kept on what? Going down. So I'm not telling you not to get a fixed rate mortgage. What I'm telling you is to be educated. What's the difference between when I bought and now? When I bought, rates were at a high and going what? You got rates at a low going up. So most of you are probably going to get a 30-year fix because it makes sense. But some of you may look at a 5 or a 7-year ARM. What does that mean? It means it's fixed for 5 years or fixed for 7 years. Because most first-time homebuyers don't live in a home for more than 7 years. It's their starter home. But that's not everybody, because we have different age groups in here. Some people may have kids and they're starting out with a single-family home, so get the 30-year fix. If you're buying a townhouse and you're going to be out in 5, you might want to look at an ARM. You still may want to get the 30-year fix just to be safe, because you may want to keep it as a what? If you buy around Dover, you got a townhouse, that's an awesome rental for who? The base. They're great rentals, because if they don't pay, the base docs they're paying pays you. I mean, they're awesome rentals. The base, if you can, they have to pay. Military don't play. You don't pay, you pay. I mean, either way, you're paying. Alright? So, all I want you to do is be educated and understand that don't believe what you hear on TV. ARMs aren't inherently bad. You just got to understand when they're useful and when they're not. Most first-time home buyers, rates are low, moving up, you'll probably get a 30-year fix. Alright? Okay, so, conventional loans. Government loans. That's really your two choices. Conventional loans is where you hear the name Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. If you want to get a conventional loan, you got to put 5% down on the purchase price. Not a big deal, but most first-time home buyers are trying to do the least amount of money out of pocket. So if you're trying to do the least amount of money out of pocket, you're not going to go with the conventional. You're going to go with one of the government programs because they're less money. If you want to avoid mortgage insurance, though, you got to put 20% down, okay, on a conventional. But that's a lot of money. Most first-time home buyers don't do that, so we end up here. FHA is what most first-time home buyers do. Most banks want a 640, but there is some of us that go below 640, so that's not a big deal. But if you do want to do, like the first-time home buyer programs, they do have a 640 overlay, okay? VA and USDA are hands down the best because how much do you have to put down? Nothing. Okay, so that's the best. VA is the best. USDA is the second best. Well, let's talk about the one everyone can get. FHA has no income restrictions, no geographical restrictions. Bill Gates could get an FHA loan. Alright? We'll lend you up to 96.5%, so what that means in English, you got to come up with a 3.5% down payment. So if you're buying a house for $100,000, you need to come up with $3,500 for the down payment. Now you may need more money because in addition to your down payment, you have what are called closing costs. It costs money to buy a home. There's transfer tax, there's attorney fees, there's title insurance, there's appraisals, there's inspection, credit report, lender fees. Okay? There's all this stuff which are closing costs. Now if you get a good real estate agent, which I've been talking about, they will negotiate who to pay some or all of those for you. The seller. You can actually negotiate the seller to pay your closing costs. So theoretically, if you get a USDA or a VA loan, you might spend $500,000 and buy a house. because you have no down payment and you can negotiate the seller to pay the closing costs. Okay? Now, FHA, you can go down to 580, but if you go below 580, you got to put 10% down, not 3.5%. That's FHA's rule. The seller can pay up to 6% towards your closing costs. You can negotiate the seller to pay all your closing costs. It does have mortgage insurance, an upfront fee and a monthly fee. It has a special option no other loan has. If you don't make enough money to buy the house you want, you can get your mom, dad, or somebody to co-sign with you who's not going to live with you but will use their income. And you can't get a co-signer to help you with your bad credit. You have to credit qualify if you're on the loan, but you can get a co-signer to help with income. I used this. I had a girl who graduated from law school in D.C., was going to get a job in Delaware at the courthouse, but this was January. That job started in August. She had to take the bar and study for it. So she wasn't having income in August, but she wanted to buy a house now in January. How did we do it? Added both her parents to the loan, did an FHA. They weren't going to live in it. They lived in Maryland. We just used their income, and they were on the loan in the deed as non-occupant co-borrower. So she literally bought a house with no income because we used her parents. That's just an option. That's one way to use it. Okay. FHA has another special loan program called a rehab loan. A lot of these properties out there that you'll see that are a good deal have problems that need to be fixed and the seller won't fix it. Like short sales and bank loans. They're saying buy them as is and you get a good deal. Problem is, we won't let you buy them as is because they don't qualify for financing. So how do you buy them? This special loan program will let you buy the house and borrow the money to fix it up all in one loan. Okay? So it's called an FHA 203K rehab loan. If you're interested in that, let me know. Because if you qualify for an FHA, you probably qualify for this. VA, best loan hands down. 100% financing. You can borrow up to $417 plus the funding fee that they charge. But you can actually borrow more than $417. You can go up to $1 million. But anything above $417, you have to have a 25% down payment. Ratios are 31-43, but you can push them higher than that with VA. 620 minimum score. The seller can pay all the closing costs, and they can pay another 4% towards buying down your rate or paying off your credit cards. You can actually get the seller to pay down your debt on a VA loan. Now, what's the odds you're going to negotiate the seller to do that? Probably not real good. So the best you're probably going to do is get them to pay the closing costs. There's no monthly mortgage insurance, so the payment's always cheaper on a VA loan than anything else. So if you're a vet, this is the way to go. USDA loan, second best option, 100% financing. But there's two restrictions, geographical and income. Kent County, if you're a family of 1 to 4, $78,200. You have to make less than $78,200. Okay? If you're a family of 5 to 10, it goes up to like 104. Alright? If you go to Newcastle County, family of 1 to 4 is $93,450. So it's higher in Newcastle County. Now, the geographical restrictions, if you want to buy it, you can't use it right here. You got to be outside of Delaware. Okay? If you want to see the map, you go to this website, DelawareMortgageLoans.net. At the top it says USDA. If you click on that, it'll show you a map of Kent, Sussex, and Newcastle County so you can see what's eligible and what's not. And then below the map, there's actually a link where you can literally put in the property address and it'll tell you if it's eligible or not. Because you can only use it if it's in an eligible area. Okay? So if you're looking at Smyrna, Milford, Townsend, most of Clayton, Odessa, Middletown, all of that's all eligible for USDA. Okay? Pretty much in Kent County, everywhere but Dover. Sussex County is the whole county. Newcastle County, pretty much where the canal is. If you go above the canal, there's only a little sliver. If you go north of that, nothing's eligible. Wilmington, Newcastle, Newark, Claymont, all that's not eligible. Alright, Fannie Mae HomePath. If you find a house that's been repossessed, foreclosed on by Fannie Mae, they have a special loan program called a HomePath. The benefit is you put 5% down, there's no MI, no mortgage insurance, and you don't even need an appraisal. Okay, so but that's only for a Fannie Mae owned home, and it has to be approved for HomePath. So it's a nice loan program. Now, loan approval. We have to verify your income by looking at your pay stubs, your W-2s, your tax returns. We have to confirm you have the money needed for closing costs, or you have to get it from the seller or first-time homebuyer program. We counterfy any correct items in your credit report and verify any debts. Your mortgage, we talked about this. Your payment is PITI. Principal is paying back the money you borrowed. Interest is paying. Now, you pay your interest every month. So every month when you make a mortgage payment, you're paying the interest from the previous month. So you're always paying the interest month to month. Taxes, we roll your property taxes into your payments, so you'll get a bill, but the bill comes to us. We pay the property taxes every year because we're collecting them from you on a monthly basis. Same thing for your homeowner's insurance. You pay it as part of your mortgage payment on a monthly basis, and then when the bill renews every year, they send it to us, because we would be collecting it from you. And then your mortgage insurance is included in there. The only thing not included is if you have an HOA fee, like a homeowners association, you have to pay that on your own. That can be monthly or yearly, depending on the development. Alright. Now, one of the dumbest things you can do is call up a bank and say, hey, my name's Bob, what's your rate? Because I can't give you a real rate unless you give me all this information. Because all this information affects your rate. Now, if you give me all that information, how long is your rate quote good for? 60 days? 30? Till you hang up the phone. Here's why. Rates change every single day the market's open. Your rate is tied to a mortgage bond. The bonds are bought and sold on the market. If the price of the bond goes up, the interest rate goes down. Now, if the market starts selling bonds and the price goes down, guess what happens to rates? They go up. Here's why rates are going to go up as the year goes on. The number one buyer of mortgage bonds right now is the federal government. They were buying $85 billion every month of treasuries and mortgage bonds at the end of 2013. As soon as 2014 hit, they cut it by $10 billion in January. They cut it by another $10 billion at the end of February, and they just cut it by another $10 billion. So they're only buying $55 billion of bonds and treasuries. So as they're the biggest buyer in the market, as they stop buying, the price is going to go down because there's no buyers, supply and demand. So what's going to happen to the rate? So as the Fed said, every time they meet, which is every 6 weeks, they're going to pull $10 billion off the table for buying. And the goal is to be done buying any bonds at the end of the year. That's why rates will probably be in the 5% because they're not going to be artificially low by the Fed's buying them. So when is the best time to buy? Now, if you can do it. Okay? Alright. A good faith estimate is an itemized list of all the costs associated with buying a home. You want this done worst case, not best case. Worst case, what's my rate and my payment? Worst case, how much money do I need? If someone's giving you a good faith estimate when you're getting pre-approved, best case, hey, the rate today is 4.25, and you tell them you're not buying for 3 months, is that helping you? You think the rate's still going to be 4.25 in 3 months? If you came to me and you're just like, John, I'm getting pre-approved, I might buy now, but I might not buy for 3 or 4 months, I'm going to pre-approve you probably at 4.75. Why? Because that way, you know, I don't have to call you up and say, look, you got to lower your purchase price, rates just went up. Because if you can afford 4.75 and when you're ready to buy it's 4.25, you can afford that, right? I've never had anybody yell at me and say, hey, you pre-approved me at 4.75, don't give me 4.5. Better, give me the 4.75. Now, if I pre-approve you at 4.25, and you take a month to buy a house and the rate's 4.5, you're going to be bad, right? You're going to think I tricked you. I didn't trick you, I just did a bad pre-approval. You should not get pre-approved at the market rate. You want it done higher because you want it worst case. Same thing with closing costs. Do you want me to show you what the lowest possible closing costs are, or do you want me to show you the highest possible closing costs? You want the highest. Closing costs change per house. Okay? Taxes, transfer tax, all that kind of stuff. So you want it done worst case. If you buy a house that's not public water and sewer, guess what? Your closing costs just went up because what do you need to get? You need to get a well and septic test done. It's about another $500 to $800. Okay? Alright, so what do you need to go shopping now? Remember we talked about the writing contract, you need to deposit $500. You're going to get an appraisal probably around $470, and you're going to get your inspections $500. So that's about $1,500. Unless you're a vet, vets can get away with $1,000 because VA makes us bill the closing to closing. So you don't have to pay it till closing, and who could you negotiate to pay it at closing? The seller. So literally a vet could get away with $1,000 out of pocket. Now, I'm not saying that's all you need, because if you're doing an FHA, you got a down payment, you also have closing costs. If you don't negotiate the seller to pay the closing costs, who has to pay them? You do. So that's why we do the good faith estimate. We go over all the fees. We'll talk about how much money do you need, how much do you need to get from the seller, all that kind of stuff. So we'll figure out before you ever go shopping, what's my payment, how much money do I need? Does that make sense? And then that's an estimate. So before when you go looking for a house, when you find a house, guess what you need to do? You need to send it to me so I can redo the numbers based on that house and where the rates are that day. All right? A pre-approval is an estimate done worst case. You go shopping, you find a house, you send it to me, because then I'm going to tell you, okay, for this house, we're going to offer this price, we need to ask for this from the seller. Based on the rates right now, this is where your payment will be. Are you good with the payment? Cool, make the offer. If you're not, then you got to go lower. So, I might do 10 of those till you find a house you actually buy. But that's what happens. You go shopping, find a house, send it to me, I run the numbers. Alright, and then you need a pre-approval letter. Alright, who's on your team? You're not going to do this alone. There's a bunch of people you need to help you do this. The first person you should talk to is a lender because you need to get what? Pre-approved. Now I know a great lender. That's my one plug, man. You guys are tough. Now the second person you need to talk to is a real estate agent. There's two types of agents though. There's the buyer's agent who works for you, and there's a listing agent who works for the seller. So if you see a house you like and it says for sale by Remax, call Joe Smith. Should you call Joe Smith? No. Who does he work for? The seller. Now if you call Joe, he'll be excited to talk to you. Because guess who pays your buyer's agent commission? The seller. So if you come without your agent, you don't get the commission, you're not an agent. The selling agent gets to keep both commissions and you're unrepresented. Because here's what's going to happen. You're going to say, hey, house list for 160. I want to offer 150, but I'm willing to go up to 160. So what's he going to do? Hey, Mr. Seller, he's offering 150, but he says he's going to go to 160. What do you want to do? Well, I'll just counter back at 160. Now, if you have your own buyer's agent, they're going to be like, hey, all we can do is one. They're going to negotiate for you. So you do not call the sign on the house for sale. You get your own buyer's agent. They're going to do all the legwork to negotiating for you. And the best part is, guess who pays them? The seller. So there's no reason not to have a buyer's agent. Okay. Attorney. Delaware makes you get an attorney to represent you in the transaction. Now, you can give that right away and let the seller pick them. But I don't recommend that because the seller picks the attorney. Who are they working for? The seller. You need to pick your own attorney to represent you. I'm required by federal law to recommend one to you because they're going to hold me accountable to the fees I estimate. You're not obligated to use them. That's just to keep me honest when I'm estimating the fees on your good faith. Alright? So you'll usually get at least 2 recommendations for an attorney, one from your lender, one from your buyer's agent. Alright? The appraiser, you don't have a choice on that. We don't either as the bank. We have to put it through an order system and it gets assigned. The home inspector, you do have a choice. He works for you. He's going to go through the house top and bottom to make sure there's nothing wrong with the house. Make sure if there's anything that needs to be fixed, you can negotiate for that. And then the homeowner's insurance agent, you have to get a homeowner's policy on the property. Protection in case there's a fire, a flood, or water damage. If your dog bites the neighbor, that's on your homeowner's policy. I always recommend getting your home and your auto with the same carrier because you get a discount for having them together. Don't split them. You're paying more money. And then if you're doing a first-time homebuyer program, you'll have to go through a counseling class. It's $125 for the class. It's 8 hours. So you'll have an agent. Do not go to the class till you talk to me first. Because some of you don't need the class. Our vets don't need the class. So don't spend $125 and waste 8 hours of your life you'll never get back. But if you're doing the FHA and doing the DSHA program for the down payment assistance, you need the class, you got to spend $125. But you still don't want to do it until you talk to me because if you have to fix your credit, it's going to take a year. Guess what? They expire after a year, so you have to spend another $125 and take the same 8-hour course again. So talk to me first before you go to the class because I don't want you to waste your money or your time if you don't need it or if you're going to have to wait at least a year, okay? Alright. So what happens now? We're pre-approved. We're ready to go shopping for a house. We got our team together. The first person on the team is you contact the buyer's agent. Don't call the listing agent. We talked about that. The first thing your buyer's agent should ask you for is a pre-approval letter before you go shopping. Because the pre-approval letter tells them what's the most you can afford to pay, what loan program, all that. How do they know what to show you without a pre-approval letter? Now, if you call a buyer's agent and you're not pre-approved, this is what they should tell you. You might want to write this down. If you're not pre-approved and you call a buyer's agent, they should say, call John. You know that. Alright. Okay, now, what they're going to do though, before you go shopping, even if you got the pre-approval letter, because no one want to go out shopping, a good buyer's agent is going to meet you and do a buyer's consultation first. Because this is the only way to make sure they're showing you houses you want to buy. Guys, you don't want to look at all these houses and go, I don't like that, I don't like that. If you're looking at houses you don't like, you didn't have a good interview with your buyer's agent. Because if they have a good interview, they're only going to show you stuff you what? Want to buy. That's their job. And realistically, guys, you should find a house in 10 homes. 10 homes or less, you should be buying a house. If you're not, it's either because you're wishy-washy and you keep changing your mind, or you looked at all the houses and there's nothing you just got to wait for one to come up. That's it. You're either changing your mind, or there's nothing available right now, or you had a bad buyer's consultation. But 10 houses or less, you should find a house because you should be able, if a good interview, you should be able to narrow everything down to about 20 to 10 houses. Okay? Now, You want to do your homework though, do your wish list and your needs list to help you have a good interview. And then you've got to have an email, guys. If you don't have an email, go to Google and get a free Gmail account. Because if you have an email, your buyer's agent is going to email you all the homes that fit your criteria. They're going to screen everything. Now, I know you want to go looking on Zillow and Realtor.com and all that. That's a bad way to search for homes because they don't update. A lot of the homes on Zillow aren't even for sale. A lot of the homes on Realtor.com were for sale, but they sold a month ago. Alright? So, your realtor has access to what's called the trend listing. It has the up-to-date listing of every home that's for sale and whether it's pending, sold, or active. Okay? Now, they're going to set up a tour with you, but you got to be realistic, guys. You're not going to tour more than 8 houses. Because if you figure 45 minutes a house, that's almost 8 hours, right? But what you can do before you do the tour, what I recommend, if you got a list of 20 homes that you think you're interested in, go drive the neighborhood. Let's say you got 5 in one neighborhood. Drive the neighborhood, because you might drive in the neighborhood and go, oh, hell no. Right? Oh, and you can just take 5 houses right off the list. And you can tell them, hey, because now what they can do in the search is they can click a little button so that neighborhood no longer shows up in your searches. Any house in that neighborhood won't even show up, just by clicking a button. So, now, or you may drive, like the neighborhood, like the house, but what wasn't in the pictures is the house next door, and that's why they're moving. Because you're buying your neighbors, right? Something, you know. So you got to check the house, check the neighborhood. Now, if you like the house and you like the neighborhood, I always recommend you go by when school lets out. This is important, because if you got kids and school lets out, and one kid gets off the bus, that's your one kid's friend. That's all they got. Now, if you're older and you're done with kids, and 50 kids get off the bus, you ain't done with kids. You know what I'm saying? So, check out the neighborhood at different times. Now, once you set up the tour, you'll go look at some homes, and this is where your agent earns their money. They're going to look at the homes, see what the average sales price is for the neighborhood, see if it's overpriced, underpriced. They're going to look at, is there other homes that are better shape? Let's look at those too. And when you're going through the house, you're going to be like, wow, the paint's awesome. Oh, I love this furniture. Guess what, guys? The furniture ain't staying. Your agent's going to be going through the house while you're all wowing and going, okay, it needs new carpet, there's a crack in the ceiling. That's what a good agent does. Why are they making notes of everything that's wrong? Because when they go to negotiate, that's why they're going to pull it out of their pocket and go, well, you know, it's not really worth $160 because we got the carpet's shot. The roof looks like it's only got 2 years left on it, so we're going to need a new roof. So they're going to make notes of all that stuff to use for their negotiating. So if you're walking through going, wow, and your agent's going, wow, you got the wrong agent. Right? Because they're supposed to be going, yeah, that's cool, but let's look up, you know, they're making notes. They should be making notes of everything that's wrong. Because that's what they're going to pull out of their bag when they're negotiating. Now, most of the time when you go through a house, the seller should not be there. Sometimes the seller is there because of scheduling, whatever. If the seller's ever there when you're going through, you got to put your game face on. What I mean by that is, if you really like the house, you can't be going, oh my God, this is the one. Oh, we got to have this house. Because when your agent goes to negotiate, yeah, they didn't really like it. The seller's going, no, I sold them. I'm not negotiating. They said they got to have the house. So if you're walking through and the seller happens to be there, you got to do this face. On the inside, you might be going, this is awesome. But on the outside, you're going, well, I mean, it's all right. That way, when your agent calls to negotiate, they go, well, they didn't really like it, but it's in the right area, so if we can get it for the right price, they might buy it, okay? So, once you do that negotiating back and forth, if you guys work it out and get under contract, everything happens really fast. Right away, you've got to make application with us, if we're the lender, you've got to make application, because in your contract, there's dates. If you don't hit those dates, the seller can say, you're done, I keep your deposit, I'm putting it back on the market. Okay? The first date is the application for the mortgage. You got to do that usually within 5 days of signing the contract. So I try and get you in within 48 hours, right away. And then you've got to set up your inspections, because the next date is you have to have the home inspected by a certain date. If you don't, you lose your right to have it inspected. So you got to set up the home inspection. Your real estate agent usually will help you with that. Then after it's inspected, there's another date that you've got to have if you want any repairs done by the seller, because it's negotiating. There's a date you have to submit the list of repairs you want done. If you miss that date, you don't get to ask for any repairs and you still have to buy the house. Now, you guys got to understand this. This is a legal contract. So if you say, hey, there's a lot of stuff wrong, I want 20 things fixed. If the seller comes back and says, okay, I'll fix all 20, guess what? You still are obligated to buy the house. If they say, I'll fix 19, you can get out of the contract. Because there's one item that they're not agreeing to fix. You can get out, get your deposit back. Now you're out your inspection money, but if they say they're going to fix everything, you still got to buy the house. You guys understand that legally, okay? So, home inspection, you're going to call your homeowner's insurance agent, get your homeowner's work out. We're going to select an attorney who's going to get a title search done and schedule closing. Your loan's going to goes to the processor who's going to put everything together, do the verifications. I'm just going to warn you guys. I don't care which bank you go to, we're going to ask for everything. Maybe even a blood test. I'm just kidding, but that's how it's going to feel like that. But that's just because we're required now by federal law to document everything to make sure we got everything done. So that's why if you can get as much documentation at the pre-approval, it'll be a lot easier when your loan goes in once you have a contract, okay? All we're going to do is ask for updated stuff. But if you're missing a lot of stuff at the pre-approval, then you're going to have to be running around asking stuff, okay? So your loan goes to the underwriter. The underwriter will approve your loan, and they're probably going to ask for some stuff. That's called a conditional commitment. Once whatever the underwriter asks for, we get it back, then the underwriter will clear your loan to close. 24 to 48 hours before closing, you'll do a final walkthrough with your agent to make sure there's nothing wrong with the property. If you ask for any repairs, you're going to make sure the repairs are done. And then in Delaware, you go to the attorney's office for settlement. And when you sign the paperwork, when you leave the attorney's office, you leave with the key. You own the house and everything in it. Okay? So pretty much, you bought a house. Pretty easy, right? Okay. That's all I got. I don't want a lot. That's all I got today. So what I'm doing is I'm hanging out for a little bit. If you want to get your credit report and you